All right, guys. So in the wake of the tragic mass school shooting down in Uvalde, Texas, that resulted in the death of 19 kids and 2 teachers, there's been a whole lot of conversation, okay, political conversation about solutions, okay? How do we prevent tragedies like this from happening, right? How do we prevent mass shootings, and how do we prevent kids from losing their lives at the hands of lunatics, right? Now, again, a lot of this conversation has become political, unfortunately, because that's just the nature of what happens in this country anytime there's a tragedy like this, right? But the reality is that we really can't have a conversation about any solutions, particularly in this situation, because nobody really knows what happened, okay? As of right now, as of the making of this video, the story, okay, which changes almost every single day, is that, well, the mass shooter showed up to the school and there was no school resource officer on campus at the time. There was nobody there to confront him with a weapon. There was no good guy with a weapon there to stop him from entering the school and slaughtering children, okay? And conservatives like myself have been advocating for more armed security on campus in response to this mass shooting and hardening schools, right? Making sure schools have safety protocols in place to prevent tragedies like this from happening, okay? It seems like with the more information that comes out, a teacher left the door open that allowed the gunman to actually come in. There was some failures in regards to security protocols that may have led to this tragedy, okay? But overall, the right conservatives say, hey, you know what? We need more good guys with guns, okay? And that will help deter and prevent some of these tragedies from happening, okay? And this story that I'm going to talk about today is a story that won't be talked about in the mainstream liberal media because it is evidence that, yes, in fact, a good guy, or in this case, a good woman with a gun can actually prevent mass shootings from happening. It can actually protect the lives of kids and children when a lunatic decides that they want to try to slaughter kids in public, okay? So with that being said, I want to play this story here that is absolutely amazing, that I think that we should be talking about here because it is an example of what can happen when citizens are armed and they are ready for some lunatic to try something. As this woman out in Charleston, West Virginia, prevented a mass shooting, okay, from taking place by a man who was parked across the street from a party and started open firing on people at a party using a rifle. So let's go ahead and play this news clip so you guys can understand exactly what's going on here. Take a look.
And first at noon, we continue our coverage on a shooting that happened at a graduation birthday party last night at the Vista View Apartment complex here in Charleston. Police say 37-year-old Dennis Butler showed up with an AR-15 and started shooting. Now, what police say could have been a mass casualty event was stopped by a bystander. Eyewitness News reporter Ava Rash has been covering the latest developments for us all morning. And Ava, it sounds like that woman was in the right place at the right time.
Lauren, you are exactly right. Police say that she was legally carrying a concealed pistol. She shot Butler multiple times, stopping him from shooting dozens of people, including children. Now, whenever I spoke to police this morning, they told me that he was approached early on in the night for speeding throughout that area near the party. Investigators say he then left, came back about 30 minutes later, parked in front of the 1300 complex, got into the back seat of his car where that AR-15 was, and began firing into the crowd. That woman took action, shot and killed Butler. Now, Lieutenant Tony Hazlett says no one was injured and that this woman did the right thing.
This lady was carrying a lawful firearm, okay? A law-abiding citizen who stopped the threat of probably 20 to 30 people getting killed. She engaged the threat and stopped it. She didn't run from the threat, she engaged it, preventing a mass casualty here in Charleston.
Now, this is a picture from 2018 of Butler from a previous arrest. Police say Butler had an extensive criminal history. They still are not exactly sure how he got that gun. Now, all witnesses and the woman are cooperating with police, and as of right now, no charges are being brought against that woman. For now, reporting at police headquarters, Ava Rash, Eyewitness News.
Now, as you guys just heard there, okay, we have a law-abiding citizen, okay, a woman, right, who was lawfully carrying a pistol, a firearm, whom took out a guy who was shooting from his vehicle with an AR-15, okay? She did not run, okay? She literally engaged the threat as soon as she realized that this guy was trying to kill people, right? And this is what happens, guys, when you have a good amount of the population armed and trained, right? When law-abiding citizens are armed and trained and they're ready to use their weapons, this is what happens. Okay, this is a prime example of what happens. This is exactly the argument that conservatives have been making. Okay, and when you have a good amount of your population that is ready for situations like this, this is what deters people from trying this type of stuff. And if they do try this type of stuff, then this is what happens, right? They get taken out, right? That's what happens. Okay. Now, again, sometimes there's certain situations like Buffalo where you have a security guard who unfortunately could not take out the suspect that's committing a mass shooting. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you need less armed people. That actually means that you need more. Okay. Because if there were more armed people in that parking lot or in that store, then that guy probably would have been overwhelmed. Okay. He would have been overwhelmed. So again, you know, situations like this, the mainstream media is not going to highlight, but we should highlight because this is an example, again, of what happens when you have a good guy or a good woman with a weapon, right? That's armed, ready, and trained. And with that being said, this woman deserves to be honored. Unfortunately, I couldn't find her name. Maybe they are not revealing her name for a reason, but I think that they should. Okay, this woman deserves a medal. She should be recognized, and this should be on national news. And I think that this is a part of the solution. Okay, when citizens, right, take out the bad guys, right, everybody should know about it, right? Everybody should know about it. And I think that would incentivize more citizens to be alert, ready, and trained for situations like that. I mean, we honor police officers, and a lot of times they never face a situation like this, and they get honored anyways. But again, when citizens face situations like this, they step up and do what this woman did, they actually really do deserve some recognition, right? They deserve to be at the White House and to be somebody that, you know, is, you know, potentially getting statues, right? We build statues of people like George Floyd, but we won't build statues for citizens like this woman who none of us will probably ever hear about again. Okay, after this video is done, you'll probably never hear about this woman again. We won't build a statue for her when we actually should be building statues for her, or at the very least, again, honoring her and making sure that people know her name and who she was. Okay, making her the example that our kids want to emulate. Okay, kids should want to grow up and be like her. Okay, grow up and be like her. Be a productive citizen that is ready to save somebody else's life at the blink of an eye. Right, that is what we should be motivating people to do. That is the example we should be setting. But again, we have a culture problem in this country where we don't honor people like this. Okay, we don't make these people the examples that our kids are looking up to. Instead, again, we make people like George Floyd the example that our kids should be looking up to. People who, you know, terrorize their communities. Okay, not anybody who actually saved any lives. Right. Again, I think that if we can change our culture to, again, you know, incentivize and reward people who do things like this, I think that would make a huge difference in regards to preventing a lot of these tragedies, because I don't think these tragedies are a gun problem. I think that they are a culture problem. I think they are a lack of common sense and public policy problem, right? Because there's no reason in the world why that school in Uvalde should not have had an armed officer there at all times. Okay, there's no reason in the world why that should not have happened. And if that armed officer was there, which again, we don't know if he was actually there or not. They say he wasn't. You know, in the latest story, but in the earlier story, they say he was. I personally think the guy ran away. Okay, I personally think he ran away and they're trying to cover for him. That's me personally. But yeah, if one was there and didn't run and actually took on the threat, I don't think that as many kids would have lost their lives. Right? Maybe that door would have been closed before the shooter was actually able to get into the school. Right? Maybe safety measures would have been taken that could have prevented kids from losing lives. That would have bought the police more time to get there before that shooter could get into that school. right? That's if the armed officer couldn't outright just kill the mass shooter on the spot. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying. I think that the solutions are there. It's just that our politicians don't really want to enact any real solutions because, unfortunately, we live in a country where mass shootings, even at the cost of kids' lives, are politically good for some people, and people are profiting off of this stuff, and that doesn't necessarily incentivize them to actually find any solutions, okay? And that is a problem with a whole lot of our politics, guys, okay? And that, honestly, is a problem with the two-party system as well, too, okay? Where, you know, hey, sometimes it's just better not to solve problems and just blame it on the other party and just say, hey, you know what? The problem's not getting solved because of the other party, instead of just working together to solve the problem, right? Because once the problem's solved, you don't have anything to blame on the other party anymore. And that, again, is a very, very, very toxic thing about our politics, and is one of the reasons why we never really see any progress on these issues and people lose their lives because of this stuff. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.